What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Y'all have been asking about the Chevelle. Well, this is finally the episode for you. Y'all have been asking what the holdup is. We have a custom dash and console being made, and before we get that stuff, we can't do anything else in the interior. So I'm gonna be taking a trip with you guys out to the west coast of Florida so we can check the progress on that. We also have Jeff coming out from JD 3D to scan the entire front side of this car to design and make us some custom trim pieces for all this. We also have him scanning the headlight buckets that you've seen us make a while back. We may be making them out of billet, we may be making them out of carbon fiber, but before we could decide that, we have to talk about our wheel fitment. So up until this point, the plan was to go wide body with this thing. We even had some custom wheels made, but as you guys have seen, we've had plenty of wide body problems with our EV truck. So we've decided to keep this Chevelle with its classic lines. So now we have to remeasure wheel fitment. So we brought our wheel expert out, Joe. We want to show you guys what's going on with these wheels. Well, slap that puppy on there for us. These wheels were designed after we scanned it and had a rendering done for our wide body kit. Now the car is up on jack stands, so it's at droop. So if you put this thing on the ground, as you see, our front fender would clip off about 1.5 inches of this front tire. So in order to get this to happen, we would have had to cut this arch out of the wheel well and slap on our wide body kit. Now look at this puppy. That's a whole lot of meat right there. That's a 335 by 20. Oh,
can't even get it in.
What'd you say?
Can't even get it on.
You can't even get it on. This thing sticks out about 2 inches past the body line. You can't even get the thing on without completely cutting up this rear quarter. So we have a nice set of wheels that we are not going to use. Now Joe's back. Joe from St. Paul Speed and Performance. We're gonna get the correct fitment so we don't have to cut up this beautiful Chevelle. We took the back spacing measurement from the front face of our rotor to where the back of the wheel would sit. And then the front spacing, which is the face of the rotor, out to the front of the fender. We got 5.5 inches of front space and 6 inches in the back. So that would actually give us an 11.5 inch wheel. And we were thinking 9.5, so we may reduce the back spacing a little bit. We want the front of the wheel to be not flush with the front of the car, but we don't want it to stick in. You know, we don't want a recessed wheel. So we got the front, now we're gonna go jump around to the back. All right, so this is what we came up with. The rear, we're gonna have a 19 by 11.5, maybe a little wider. So what I'm doing here is I'm just giving the maximum clearance where we have. I'm gonna let them decide because I already have one set of wheels here that we've already bought and paid for that we're not using. So I don't wanna have two. Joe,
let's make it right.
Thanks for coming by.
Thanks for having me, Mike.
We'll see you tomorrow with the new wheels.
Sounds good.
While we're waiting for the wheels from St. Paul Speed, we're gonna work on getting some power locks and power windows retrofitted into the Chevelle. This is the original one. Hand crank goes on here, and here's the new one. Pretty similar design, same gear set, same sort of roller. Just instead of the hand crank, it's got the electric motor on it. We ran into our first issue with getting the motor installed. This is where the window sits. The glass sits on this piece. This piece slides up and down, gets moved by the arm. But as you move it up, and it's all the way in the end of its travel, the bolt holes still don't reach all the way over. So we're gonna have to move this arm in order to get more distance. And the only way to really do that, because the motor's so powerful, is hooking up the electric. Gonna take some wire, make up a harness, plug it in. We'll be able to get the arm into the exact place that we could line up the bolt holes and get it mounted in. Okay, we got all our motors installed. We got wires here and a little 12-volt battery outside so we can hook it up. Back up. That'll get a little smoother once all the trim is back in holding the window. So now that the windows are done, before we put the actual glass in, while it's out and we have lots of room, we're gonna do power door locks. So we got this kit. It's got some remote controls, a little controller, wiring harnesses to connect it, and then the actual physical mechanism. door lock actuator just screws onto the side of the door jamb. This has 2 holes that match pretty close with these, so it actually just gets sandwiched. So as you tighten the bolts back in here, it holds the new motor in as well. We got this rod. We're gonna have to attach this rod so the motor can hold this up and down. We have got some door lock actuation. Here's right up here with the yellow piece. That's the rod holder that's holding the rod into the mechanism on the stock doors latch. And that rod is coming from here. There's the motor. There's the lock position. And there's the unlock position. Lock, unlock. Door number 2. And boom, opens up, shuts back. All right, so we're gonna move on to the next step, which is hood pins. Previously, these latches were installed, and straight down into the latch, you get this pin, you push down, holds the latch. And I'm thinking of actually threading and tapping a hole into this plate on the hood. But before we do that, we're gonna have another issue. This piece is gonna stick up higher than where the hood sits. We would end up hitting the top portion of this. And we're gonna take out some material from here. Let's get cutting. I just tack this together for testing before we do a final weld. When you get in the latch position, now we can see that instead of having the body stick up to about here, it comes almost even flush. And as we bring down the hood, we have tons of thread to come down. We could pop these out and check out the spring action. And then we could final weld both of these. All right, so the next step on these hood latches is that we need to find a way to get them to open. So we got this piece right here welded onto the stock hood latch as a hole. We're gonna be using this solid rod to go all the way through here. And then that way you could have nuts on either side and have adjustability and tighten it in exactly where it needs to be to push both sides evenly. I'm gonna make the same tab I did on that side to hang down right here. Then we'll be able to test it out and see how it goes. Here is the final product. We got closed in the closed position here, linked up to the closed position here. You can see right where the rod comes through on either side. And now, for the big reveal, we're gonna have a cable linked right here. And when we push it, we should see both of these snap open at the same exact time. And hold it. There we go. Opened, opened. So we got the billet hinges back on, but we got our 2 latches on either side, our 2 hood pins. Slam it in. Ooh, tight. You can see the rod move in. Push this. Pops right up like butter. Got it latched. And
All right, so now that Dave has got our power windows, our power locks, and he's got that pesty hood latch thing figured out, we're gonna jump onto some of the finished design work. We pushed the car into the clean room, as you see, because we got Jeff here from JD 3D. He's gonna be doing some scanning of our turbo inlets and all the closeout panels for the engine compartment. So we're gonna get these things back into the engine compartment so he can do some scan work. Now that we got all our beauty panels mocked back up, our trim bezels for our headlights put in, we're gonna redesign the idea. Previously, we did not have this latching mechanism in here. So that 4.5-inch OD pipe was hitting this. The OD of our turbo inlet is only 4, so Jeff's gonna scan the bezel, scan the inlet, and then make a nice transition piece with some kind of grill in it to filter out any rocks or birds that might fly in there. He's gonna scan all these beauty panels and then design a program to send over to JC at JC's Customs so he could make billet trim rings for all these pieces. Got any words?
Let's get scanning.
Well, let's get scanning. All right, so Jeff just finished up scanning all the beauty panels on the Chevelle so he could make a design for all of our billet trim pieces. Meanwhile, we're getting the Chevelle back up on the lift because we've decided to pull out that 8L90 and switch it out for a BMW dual clutch transmission. What you got there, Liam?
A nice adapter plate.
Man, that's fancy. So we're using a BMW transmission to match up to a GM motor. So this adapter plate changes your bolt patterns so that way you're able to bolt it right up to this motor. We do like to do things tricky, and this is a very tricky setup. We've had a hard time kind of figuring out how we're going to control the stuff, and Sean from Attack the Clock has agreed to assist us. We got this plate sent out a little early so we could get our BMW transmission mocked up, because before we go ahead and jump back into the interior, we have to make sure we're gonna have all the clearance we need. So we're gonna get it mocked up so that way when it gets sent back to us, we just shove it in and get to work. I don't know, I've said it a million times and I still say it. It's always best to plan your build out in its entirety before you start working, because you're gonna run into issues. As you see, our belt crank housing, that bolt is already about 1/8 inch off this firewall. So we're gonna add that 1-inch adapter plate, which is gonna shift everything this way. We're not gonna have clearance. So the bad news is basically we're gonna be pulling the whole motor out. That way Timmy could modify this firewall so we could get our transmission changed out. This sucks, but if this was easy, everybody would be building hot rods and race cars, right?
We've got our engine pulled out of the chassis. It took a little bit of work. Everything's real tight. The major reason why it's so tight is because we dropped the engine about 2.5 inches. The custom engine mounts that Tim fabbed up leaves little room everywhere to get stuff out. So we ended up having to pull everything out just to get the trans out. Pulled the transmission out off the shelf from the back. We're gonna cut it open, and then we're gonna mount our Works adapter plate onto here to check fitment, make sure it doesn't hit, because we are running an aftermarket pan. Once we get the plate on, we should be able to mate the transmission up and see what kind of space that we need to make it all work. Transmission is mated with the adapter sandwiched in between the block. We've got it set back into the chassis. There's more room than I thought there was gonna be over here. One small point of concern is right there. Boom, we have contact. So better fitting than what I expected, but it looks like we're gonna have to take out a sliver in this area. Liam's gonna make a small mark of reference, and then we're gonna lift the whole car up, see what we're gonna have to do in the tunnel. On the side, we have clearance, plenty of room on the top side, plenty clear over here to run our cooler lines. It's a lot less work than I was actually expecting, man. And now we can move on to making our modifications, building out our cross member, and moving forward.
Thankfully, Andrew made some marks on the firewall. We went ahead and clearance for these bolts on the corner here. All I did was I cut out about a 1/2 inch back this way and this way, put a flat piece of metal in there. to be able to get some clearance for the new transmission. I got our floor jack there, so I'm gonna start messing with the angle of the transmission. And they have this crazy transmission mount that goes on the back of the DCT transmission. And then we have this cross member that came out of the M5. And this all kind of bolts like this together. I'm probably just gonna use this as like a bolt pattern and make my own, because clearance obviously is an issue. We can't have this hanging down under the car. So we're gonna go ahead and throw this all in right now and mock it up, and then see what we have to do for a transmission mount. All right, so we got the transmission back up in the tunnel. It's looking pretty clear. This factory mount definitely is not gonna work. It's just way too big and bulky and low. So what I'm thinking I'm gonna do is, these are the original points that BMW uses. So I'm gonna use these points here, and then I'm gonna use some chromoly tubing, and then I'm gonna have 4 points it's gonna bolt to a flat, to like a traditional LS style transmission mount. The bar will come across here from these factory tabs that Roadster Shop gave us. Grab that bracket, come straight across, and then that'll be our transmission mount. First we have to do is get all these points. So I'm gonna use this as like a fixture to understand our offset. Got our bracket all set, and it bolts onto the transmission pretty good. I had to modify this corner right here because of the Weibo on the output shaft on the BMW. What I'm gonna do right now is I just got this standard energy suspension tranny mount. I want to try to mount it up high like that. So I just have the plate just tack welded on there. I'm gonna throw it back in, make sure it clears the actual Weibo, that big rubber piece that comes out the back of the BMW transmission. If it clears, we'll final weld it, bolt this in, and then we're going to start connecting the dots with our plates that we have over here. That's going to come across the transmission on the actual chassis and bolt this in place. All right, finally got our transmission mount done on the transmission side. So we'll go ahead and bolt this thing in place and start making the lower piece so it actually bolts in the chassis. All right, our tranny mount is done. We got our 1-inch tubing here, this C bracket that's coming across to grab our bushing, and then we have our tabs over here. I went and put them on top of the chassis instead of underneath, so it's the same mechanical load. So there's no bolts in this system. It would sit just like how you see it. I'm going to go ahead and let the jack out. No movie.
Good. We're gonna get this thing taken out. It's coming out of the mock-up stage, and we're getting it sent out to get rebuilt. So what we're doing is adding all the electronics that we need to outfit the valve body and all the other pieces that we need inside this transmission to swap it over to our application. So let's get this thing pulled out. So we got the BMW transmission out of the Chevelle, and the Chevelle's back on the ground. Mikey's got it loaded up in his car, and he's taking it over to the guys at Attacking the Clock, and they're gonna make the necessary changes we need to adapt it to our application. He's also making one other stop on the West Coast while he's out on the road.
All right, my 3.5-hour drive to the west coast of Florida, finally here. We're at Mango Bay Metalworks. So this is my buddy Drew. Oh, there's Drew, I see him. Bending some tubes. What's up, buddy? What's up? Oh, he's got it laid out here for us. There it is, the part that we have been waiting for, man. Look at that. This guy is a metal worker. So Drew, what do you got here, man? What's going on?
We got our Mercedes DT C shifter, which will be going right there.
Nice.
Our wireless phone charger.
Okay.
Got our Resto Mod Air AC vents that were hammer formed around.
Ooh. I forgot we were going square with that. That's the first time we're doing square.
So these, got another hammer form for that. We'll have 3 of those just like that. For
Oh wow, look at those. So it has like a little carbon fiber like inlay or something. I might want to trade these in for some black ones. Okay. So you got 2 AC vents here, our controls. We got our custom cup holders, man. This guy even welded our cup holders together just to keep them nice and tight. And this is gonna swoop all the way back towards the back seat. And then you're gonna have 2 more cup holders here, right?
Correct.
This part's gonna go up in between the rear seats. And then this is a dash part. They are also making our dash custom.
So as of right now, what we've had to do is, in order to get the Motec unit to fit, we had to cut out the whole top of the dash
Okay.
for our height. So I shaped up my rough panel to go in here. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna hammer form in the Motec unit to kind of bring it out and get some shape into it. So that will wind up going here.
Ooh-wee.
So the sides will be out a little bit more, and then the top will actually recess back into it. And then the Kenwood unit will be right next to the Motec, and that will also have.
All right, so we got our Kenwood screen that you guys probably remember from the F100 back in the day. So the Kenwood screen is gonna go here. Now you guys know why the Chevelle has been on a hold up. This is why, because these guys are artists, man. They know what they're doing. We can't do this kind of stuff at our shop, so sometimes you just gotta know when to stop and when to send it to someone else. So we appreciate your time. Thank you for having us out. Keep up the good work. So next time you see this stuff, I believe Drew said he's gonna have this coming to us soon. Yep. We'll be able to get this in the Chevelle. That way we can do the steering column and all other kind of stuff that we're waiting on. Everybody wants to know what the hell's going on with the Chevelle. Why aren't we not posting? This is why, guy. It's Drew's fault.
Yep.
All right, you guys get back to work, man. All right, guys. Well, I know this wasn't the most exciting episode we've ever put out for you guys, but we did want to get you an update on the Chevelle build. David was able to get our power windows and our power locks installed. He was even able to figure out how to get the BMW hood latches to operate correctly. We also got Jeff from JD 3D. He came over here, he scanned all of our closeout and beauty panels in the engine compartment. Once he gets those designs back to us, we're gonna send all that over to JC. He's gonna machine us some nice billet trim pieces, which will pretty much finish out the engine compartment. We are waiting on our console and our dash to get back from Mango Bay Metalworks. After that gets here, we're gonna jump back in the interior. We're gonna get this all done. We're also gonna be able to finish our steering components and our BMW transmission and our new wheels. After that stuff gets here, we'll be able to get all this thing done. We're gonna be taking this Chevelle apart very soon and getting it sent out for paint. So we got a lot of Chevelle content coming to you guys real soon. Meanwhile, I hope you're enjoying our C10 build, and we have a big project coming up that we're just starting on our K10. So go over to check out our website, pick up some merch, support the content. We appreciate you guys. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. We'll see you on the next one. Toodaloo.